Never a mistake. Never a
Wow.
mistake. Never a mistake.
Never.
Anyway,
No.
welcome to the PARAcast. I'm your host, Tomas the Boss Hernandez. Joining me tonight, owner of NotHotCarWashers.com, it's Robert Wyatt.
Hey, come in, get a free hot lube, wax.
Watch
Good times had by all.
Watch him put his hairy nipples against the car window as he's washing
I'm not.
it.
I'm not telling you who's getting lubed.
He's just paying IDPA shooters and brass to come clean people's cars.
Yeah, they look like meth heads. Also, the grocery bill just went up because he can't steal from self-checkout anymore. It's Jared Stapp.
First of all, you think I go to Walmart? No.
I do. I was there last night. Had my gun.
I
had
hate
hopes and
Walmart.
aspirations. I love Walmart. Walmart's the greatest store ever.
Walmart's
Seriously,
terrifying.
that Taylorsville one. I go there so much just with this like dream. Like everybody's got to have a dream in life, and mine is to be able to shoot somebody in the Taylorsville Walmart parking lot.
I got this sweater. I went to the Orem Target, and Orem's a little bit not. It's got like colleges around it, and it's got some pretty nice houses, and it's close to the canyon, so it's like the closest Target to like Heber and all that jazz, where all the rich people hang out. And I walk in there, and I'm going to go. I was like, all right, well, like I need a new sweater, kind of walk around in. And I'm sitting there and I'm going back there. And I was like, why is everybody so beautiful? Why is everyone so beautiful? Look at these kids. These kids with their mom. This is a beautiful mom, and they got like these kids, and they're all
Well,
like
it's because all the
haircuts
white chicks who don't want to go to Walmart.
I know. Well, this is how it goes.
Try going to Harmon's.
You have all those white chicks who are tired of having to like have somebody go and like open up all the locked cases. And they're like, I'm gonna go somewhere where that isn't a problem. Obviously, they leave the Walmart.
Target is the place where you go to spend your husband's money.
Seriously.
Target at 11
I hate
a.m.
that store.
You go in there and it's just like, oh, look at all these beautiful women spending their husband's money, and it's just like, there's like just in the towel section, like getting like a handful of towels. You're just like, what's going on here? Anyway, people who look like they have money to spend on stuff like that shoot HK products. I went and shot the match yesterday, and even though it's my second match of the year and I couldn't split the gun for the life of me, I did go out there and shot like 86% of whatever the winner. Robert,
What'd you shoot?
What did I shoot?
What did I do?
What did I shoot, or what gun did I shoot?
What gun did you shoot?
I shot the VP9.
Oh.
So I shot the VP9, and the first little bit of it, it felt a little kind of weird. I've been dry firing a lot, and then I kind of just settled into shooting it. And man, I love this stupid thing. It fits my hand. It's great.
It feels good in the hand.
It can be
It
can be a 40-ounce gun with the light and the brass on it, or it can be a 26-ounce gun. And so like the only I have two issues with the gun. It's trigger weight. Like it's got HK triggers.
It's a little heavy.
HK triggers, the German police want a 2-meter drop test. And so HK definitely kind of
they wanted to be able to put a weight on the trigger and then drop the gun 2 meters and still not have it go off, and they succeeded.
And like the firing pin block is not a push-in firing pin block. It's like this gate that gets rotated out of the way to allow the firing pin to go forward. Like it is a
fancy.
When they talk about the VP9 being the most well-engineered polymer frame striker pistol ever designed,
they're not making claims like Boeing.
No, they're not making claims like they're not disappearing people. So it's a fantastic gun, and I really, really freaking enjoy it. I got this in, just in case I decided to compete from concealment again, I got this JM Custom Kydex Appendix 2.5, which is meant for the gun with the Streamlight TLR1 on it. But I'm kind of thinking about grabbing a holster that does not require the light, because when you put the brass mag on it with the brass grip, like the balance is perfect. The balance of the gun is so perfect and just almost all in your hand, and there's no muzzle heaviness or anything in it whatsoever without the light. With the light, it's a little bit more muzzle heavy, but it is a freaking fantastic pistol. Yeah, it returned well. I think I shot like I think I shot 120 A's, like
120 A's, 8 Charlies, 2 Deltas, and
only 8
that we're not going to
Charlies.
talk about.
Only 8 Charlies.
You're shooting too slow, buddy.
Well, I definitely was. Like I'm off the pace. That is for sure from not shooting for a while and not practicing as much, and I got this toe issue that's killing me.
Well, shut up, because I was only like 1 second faster than you. So, go to hell.
Well, the one thing is, like, I was watching Robert's videos, I was just like, gosh damn, he's splitting so fast with that trigger. He's splitting so fast with that Shadow too. And I was just like, oh man, that thing is just so freaking awesome. But this gun, man, like,
yeah, well, you know what, Tommy? Unlike your gun, mine won't even survive like, a 6 centimeter drop test.
you can't even survive a tap on the back of the hammer on accident. Pow.
Yeah. I know that if it doesn't go into battery, I know not to like hit the back of it.
Yeah.
Because it's probably going off.
It's kind of crazy. When I was looking at this firing pin block,
That's a
that HK Designs.
Right.
If you guys have YouTube, you can follow along. But see how it arrests the actual striker that sticks down and gets pulled back?
Mm-hmm.
And so it actually doesn't go up into the firing pin and capture a different part of the firing pin. So like when we're breaking firing pins, like even in a Glock, you can get firing pin chant or whatever like that from the trigger bar rubbing against the firing pin block and pushing it up. And then that interacts with a cutout on the firing pin. Like that just gets slid out of the way, and then it arrests on the thickest part of the damn firing pin that gets pulled back. And you're just like, what a bunch of smart guys. I have broken 4 firing pins in my Beretta 92s because Berettas, they have a huge cutout for that firing pin block, and SIGs have a big cutout for a firing pin block.
Yeah, but the irony of that is even when the firing pin breaks, the Beretta still runs.
The Beretta still runs, correct. And that's a lot of things that do happen.
Beretta don't give a shit.
No, well, that's the one thing. Is like the Beretta
firing pins for bitches.
The Beretta will run broken. The other problem is too, it only breaks
just
like
as millions of Army and soldiers have figured out.
That's pretty much it. Running broken. Tom Nelson, running broken 2024. Vote Nelson 2024. But like it's incredibly like it's super. It's just like, oh, like this is a very well designed product from guys who are going to put out can afford to put out a gun at a price point that's like $150 higher than the competition. But speaking of price points, go ahead, Jared.
No, I think I would like to have a P30. Those P30s are nice, and I think if I could get a P30L with the LEM trigger, I would be very happy with that. Those are snazzy guns.
They're great guns, and honestly, like if I was to get another HK, it'd be I'd probably get an SK version of a VP9 just so I can get more mags. But like
what's the SK?
The SK is the subcompact, so it's slightly bigger than a Glock 26, but much smaller than a Glock 19. It like fits in that kind of spot right there. So I think that'd be kind of a cool concealed carry gun. A P30L would be fantastic, and I think even a P30L with a dovetail mount for an optic.
No.
Well,
if you get a P30L, there's 2 options. You can either one, do it like TLG from pistol training and just run it the way he built his out, or you make it like John Wick.
Yeah, I mean if you're gonna put an optic on it, Langdon, they obviously do a good job too. But if an iron sighted, like a Dawson Precision set of iron sights on a P30L, like if you get the non-alien version and put the gray gun's flat face trigger on it, you are going to get a manual safety model where you can have it cocked and locked. That's a blaster and a half. Like that would be a lot of fun. I don't like the safety levers because they kind of interfere with my thumb, but they are that would be a freaking excellent little fun blaster to sit there and get. And hey, go buy one right now. You're gonna get 6 magazines with the damn thing. So it's pretty cool. But speaking of guns that are less than $150 than when you thought. See, I was sitting there scrolling. CZ is giving out P10s for $300. $316 for a full size, $300 for a P10S, and I just like.
Yeah, but it's the S. If they had the F, the F would be the way to go.
They have the F. The F is $316.
What's the difference?
Full size versus subcompact.
The subcompact.
And the full size really is the way to go. The subcompact's it's okay, but the full size is the jam.
They're all fine. It's
They're
just
fine. They're fine.
it's
Yeah.
just another gun that's just like the Springfield Echelon. Like, it's fine. It's just another gun.
The only version of
It
that
is.
P10 that I think
It's
is
just $316, which is kind of nice.
You'd be losing money if you didn't buy it.
That's kind of how I rationalize it.
If you're a CZ fan, and you haven't just the P10S or Scorpion, like people were talking. We had a kid who was running a JP rifle, and his uncle let him borrow a JP rifle, and obviously it's not the roller delayed, it's one of the blowback ones, and it's probably the finest blowback rifle that money can buy. But there were some issues running it with the Glock mags and getting it to go. And I was talking to the guy, and I was just like, those CZ Scorpions are really great. And he goes, I had a CZ Scorpion, and it ran and ran. And I got here, and I kept feeling like, oh man, I need to get a cool gun to compete with like everybody else. So I bought this JP rifle, and I was just like, I know it's funny, but like you could buy 3 of those CZ Scorpions and have a match gun, a local gun, and then a practice gun, and get really good at rifle transitions, especially if you bought one of those 16-inch barreled ones. Like it's pretty crazy, but like they have that. I saw one of the P10 competition model, the full size competition model that has the trigger and the Dawsons and everything on it, and it was like $520, and I was just like,
I just hate how they look.
Yeah, really there's something to be said about pride of ownership, Tom.
Yeah, I mean it is true. I mean, honestly, but the CZ Scorpion is like the bread.
Yeah, so this is the pride of ownership. This is the pride of ownership.
Nobody wants to admit it.
Your P30 is nice. A CZ Scorpion is just like a solid meh. It's like you're trying to go out and show off your Honda Civic, and everybody's like, cool, that's a 1995 Honda Civic, and everybody knows it'll last forever, and it has great gas mileage, but also no girl's going to suck your dick in that car.
I'll tell you what, you could force her to because you got a gun that works. There's the one thing about a lot of those blowback AR, like somebody was talking to me, they're like, oh, I'm kind of messing around, like trying to get this AR9 to work. And it's just like, why? He's just, oh, I'm trying parts. I'm doing this thing and just trying to get it. And like, it's fun to mess around. It's like, it's not fun when your gun doesn't work. Like having your gun not working. Like I was talking to Kevin Isaac. He goes, yeah, my Canic is just light striking like crazy. And I'm changing all the firing pin. I'm trying the striker spring. And I'm like, that's probably a firing pin block problem. But he's shooting a DWX. And you know what happened? The DWX ran and he had a fantastic day. So you know what he said about shooting his Canic? He said it was driving him crazy.
Mad.
He's pissed.
He's been so mad at that Canic. He was at the class with me and Robert, and holy crap, he was just like, and I felt bad for him because I've had that happen with guns, and I did what I think he's gonna do, where you basically rage quit on the gun, and you're like, you know what? Fuck you, you rat ass piece of shit. You're gonna go to the back of the safe, or I'm gonna sell you to Tom. Get out of here. Get the fuck out of here. And then you go get a new gun.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. Like Robert was doing that with Shadow 2s forever. He was, Robert. I remember so many matches traveling with Robert, and what we didn't know was that he's left-handed.
It was all Robert's fault.
And his right thumb was kicking brass back, and be like, don't cover the ejection port with your thumb. You were having a miserable time.
It sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. You wake up in the morning like, is today going to be the day that the gun works? Or is it going to be a crap-tastic or a terrible thing? It takes the fun out of shooting.
Yeah. And so there's something to be said about not getting the fancy feast or thinking that you're getting a fancy feast and getting something that freaking runs. There are many people in all the continents on the earth who have been shot with an MP5 submachine gun. And you know what happened? The guy took off the safety, pulled the trigger, and it went bang.
Yeah, but the MP5 is Fancy Feast.
It is Fancy Feast, but it's 1960s Fancy Feast, and it's a proven design. Like these proven designs.
The Germans build stuff to last.
They do.
The Third Reich.
Well, that wasn't really a German.
I thought you were going to say their ovens. Their ovens do a great job.
Oh my God, we're going to get kicked off of YouTube. Anyways, talk about your. This is a great lead into the Joey Sunderland class. Go ahead, guys. Talk about it.
Go for it, Jared. That was an interesting class.
Yeah, so Joey Sauerland, if you guys don't know him, he's a relatively new guy to the shooting world, but
I think he's Steve Anderson's nephew or something.
He's Steve Anderson's protege, we'll call it.
Potato, tomato.
So he's kind of new to the shooting world, but he did a lot of practice, a lot of training, and he performed incredibly well at the last national event. I don't remember what he placed, but he
won.
He won it?
I think he won it.
Limited,
oh,
right?
Okay. So he did very well, needless to say. And so he was going to do a class here locally in Utah, and we figured we'd all go and check it out because it was actually a really cheap class considering. But it was also a very interesting class. It was very, very different. I don't even know. All right. I don't even know how many classes I've taken at this point, from primarily tactical Timmies and tactical guys, but I've taken a handful of competition classes with Ron Avery, Brian Nelson, a
Have you
handful
ever
of other
taken
high
one from a
guys.
24-hour fitness instructor?
Yeah, this is a first. And so it was interesting because right off the back, he didn't even have a gun on him. He did not shoot a single round the entire day. His whole thing was, I do not want to show you what to do because I want you to figure out what to do. If I am teaching you correctly, then you should come to the correct answer by my suggestions and explanations.
Yeah.
And the goal, like you're going to work your way to the goal yourself.
Right. And so, and I can understand that concept. I can understand that idea because there's a lot to be said. If you figure out something yourself, there's a much more higher likelihood that you will actually remember it and continue to do it than if I just tell you, hey, hold your gun like this, you dumb shitbag, and then they're not going to do it ever again. So it was really good, though. It was a very interesting class. We didn't do a whole lot of live fire, to be honest. But that's kind of his shtick. His shtick is, listen, guys, I only shoot like a handful of drills live fire. Everything I do is dry. Everything I do is just practice at my house, or I actually will go to the range and just dry fire. He'll say, I'll go to the range and I'll dry fire stages for like an hour, and then I'll do 10, 15 minutes of live fire, and then I'll leave. And so he made GM, and he only said he shot
500 something rounds. Very, very few.
Yeah, 5,000, not a ton of rounds, but the big thing is it was a very interesting take on competition, a very interesting take on a lot of things. I would say it was a higher end level class.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think a brand new shooter, they would feel like they were drowning.
Right, because there's a lot of it where...
Is that where like a B class and above shooter, or like a student who could aim and hit?
I would
that would
say
be like a prerequisite. Like you can make any shot on the stage.
Vanessa was, understand what I'm saying. Vanessa was the lowest skilled shooter in that class, and she's very good, right?
And she struggled with some of his methodologies. I struggled with some of his methodologies.
Yeah, me too.
And so honestly, like, I think that class, he has it made for A's and up, maybe even M's and GM's. Like, that is who that class is for. It is all about, the point of that class is about breaking through barriers and trying to help you figure out how to do things more efficient, more faster. That's it. Like, that's just like, we're not going to go over grip. We're not going to go over recoil control. We're not going to go over footwork. We're not going to go over anything. All we're going over is, the goal is to get the gun from this spot where it's going to shoot at this target, and then it has to go over to this spot where it's going to shoot at that target. How do we accomplish this task?
That was very much that when we went and took that TPC class, we had that section that we did with Ken Nelson. And that was very much, do you guys remember that? That was very much the point of that lesson was, you're going to load it up and you're going to get to the end of this freaking stage as quickly as possible. And what it was get the gun over there and split as fast as you can and get some of the aims in while you're doing it.
And I remember at the time, being very, very pissed off at that segment because
Well,
it's like and this kind of
I don't
speaks
even
to
remember that segment, to be honest.
I just remember because at the time I was like here's what you need to do, and I'm like, I don't even understand this. I just don't get it. And there's just this gap of here's what you want me to do. Here's where my brain and my knowledge is ending, and I need some help getting from this point to this point. And it's just like, well, just
Right.
keep doing it. I'm like, and I actually told him it's like you're speaking French and I'm speaking English.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. And so it was a good class. I like it from the standpoint of what you said, Jared. Like you're breaking through boundaries. It's like, what do you say? It's like you have this singular point of focus.
Right.
This is the only thing I want you to do. And in the process of doing that, you kind of you have to get comfortable with letting other things slide. Because this is the one thing I'm working on. And I mean, we talk about it all the time with like the new shooters and things like that, where we tell people, you'll have the new shooters that come out and they're like, well, I should slow down and get my hits. And I'm like, no,
never,
you never do that. And like, no, why? And I'm like, well, think about this. Like,
because you ain't no bitch.
Yeah. Right. don't be that. I always use like the NASCAR thing. It's like, I mean, you could go through and you could drive around the Daytona 500. You could drive it nice and slow, have the most perfect fundamentals, and Jeff Gordon's still going to kick your ass because he's doing the same exact thing way faster. You have to get used to going at this speed, and then everything else will figure itself out.
Right. And that's the biggest thing that Joey was pushing is that, listen, guys, everybody gets sucked up and everybody gets so like focused on, okay, well, should I take a left step, a right step? How should I get to this spot? Okay, I'm going to do left, right, left, and then a hard lean. And he goes, no, just get the gun to where it needs to go, and your body will do the rest. Your body is a very capable machine, and you are very capable at walking and running, I would hope. So,
and I think that's when you finally start to internalize what he's trying to get you to do, that becomes easier to go with his idea. But at the outset, you're like, what?
Right. I think this is a relatively new thing for him, isn't it? Him coaching. He's doing really good right now, and I think A class and up really benefit from it because they have those really strong fundamentals. They have a good understanding of the game. They have a good understanding of movement, of recoil control. They don't need help with their grip. They don't need help with their stance. They know how to do all those things. And I think those shooters are going to be the ones who benefit most out of his class, just because there are a lot of other shooters who, to be frank, are awful at recoil control. And if I told a cop that was like, okay, so shoot, okay, what does your red dot do? Does it return or do you lose it? And I lose it. Okay, well, just fix that. Don't do that no more. The cop's going to go,
yeah,
he's not going to understand.
Well,
and so I think there's a place for the openness, but I think there's also a very, very important place where, like, no, I mean, you do need to, depending on their skill level, we need to do that. So I think he did see and he could tell that our group was pretty good. And we had a really high end class, I think. And so I really enjoyed it. I also really liked that pretty much everything he was teaching is what I teach in my moving and shooting class, just he does it in a different way. And I think that's interesting. And I'm going to use some of the stuff he uses in some of my future classes, but it's already like, oh, I'm already doing a lot of what he does. I already am doing this drill. But it's interesting because a lot of what he would do, it would be ways to trick your brain to focus on something, as opposed to saying, all right, guys, we're going to work on visual patience and actually waiting for the dot to where it needs to be and then pulling the trigger and then moving, versus just blasting over at yonder target over there. Like we need to be able to have that patience to see that. And how he taught that was shot calling. He taught that as, okay, we need to move, and as you shoot, you need to be able to shot call. And if you are able to shot call, that is visual patience. That is waiting and actually seeing and having that snapshot of where your dot was when you pulled the trigger. And so that is being able to say, okay, no, I know exactly where that bullet went. Visual patience, is shot calling. And it was just interesting because there are a number of things that he did like that, where it was just, oh, I call it this, he calls it this. It's the same thing, but it's different. And it was interesting to see how he achieved those methods versus how I achieved them with my students. But it was a great class. It was a lot of fun, even with all the lunges.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that was weird.
You guys warmed up, I heard, huh? You guys do some like ATG split squats. Is that what you were doing?
Get to the end of it and like, well, we're done with the Li-Fi portion, and now we're gonna exercise. And I'm like, the
what?
Fuck?
You should have seen Taylor. Taylor was just like,
Taylor.
Yeah, it was. But
my favorite.
But the flip side of that though is, I mean, like, because yeah, I guess he's a fitness instructor kind of guy, but I mean, he gave you.
I think that's his day job, isn't it?
I think you're right. And so, but he gave you. Look, he's like, here's the things that you can do that will be most beneficial in terms of exercise for USPSA. Cool, thanks. I'll go work on that. Lord knows I need to.
Right, and it's all very simple stuff. And like he said, like, hey, like it's 3 things, guys. It's not like a secret. It's squats, it's lunges, and then it's essentially a lower easy mode of a deadlift. Yeah, it's just, he calls them hip flexors. But he said, look, if you can do these 3 things, and if you can do 3 sets of 10 on these exercises, like you're good. Like you'll be able to shoot USPSA well, and you'll be able to live your life well. Mm-hmm. But the problem is if you're in a position where you can't do 3 reps of 10 squats and lunges and bending over, essentially, obviously that is going to hurt your ability, 1, in USPSA, and 2, just in general in life. Like if you can't move, you can't do anything. So
100%.
It was nice where he wasn't like trying to be like, okay, you need to get jacked, you need to take creatine, you need to take this, muscles, let's snort cocaine and just go lift things. And so I appreciated that he wasn't, trying to do preacher curls the entire time. And he actually made fun of him, where he's like, okay, cool, you have big biceps. Now what? What are you going to do with your gun? It's not going to change anything.
We did that barrel drill where we had the 2 poppers downrange.
I didn't like the barrel drill.
Well, let me tell you why I liked it. Because he's like, you need to have this singular point of focus, and you're trying to hit this popper in each one of these different positions. But as people were running, he's like, now just watch them. As they do this, they're gonna get lower. They're gonna have more aggressively bent knees, because they're gonna start learning the position they have to be in as that gun comes into position, to be able to essentially like send that shot quickly. And that kind of speaks to his mentality of like, here's the goal, and I'm gonna force you to just keep doing this thing until you start to figure out the things you need to do. It's such an interesting way to look at it, and I never considered it.
And I get that, but I am much more. I really like doing it. So, for instance, this is how I teach movement in my class. Instead of saying, "Hey, get from here to here, however you want to do it, and then we'll figure it out. Do whatever's the fastest." Mm-hmm. There are a lot of guys out there who have a really hard time trying to figure out, like, okay, I just did it 3 different ways. Which one's fastest? I don't know. Right. Did I write the times down? Did I do anything? Like, we weren't documenting anything on that drill. It was just doing stuff.
Well, and that's the other problem too. Is like, if it's close enough to like figure out which one's fastest, it's almost impossible to figure out within like 2 seconds which one is the fastest, because of the execution if you try it 3 different ways. Like there'll be something in there that's not the movement or the execution that F's it up anyway.
Right.
There's only things that can make targets easier to engage from one direction or the other.
Mm-hmm. Well, I liked it because as the drill like progresses, because you basically are shooting it until you miss. But as the drill, you start to get tired. There's outside factors start coming in, and it forces you to be like, no, this is the one thing I have to pay attention to. Even though, like, your legs are getting tired, you're starting to suck wind. You just ran into one of the barrels while you were trying to retreat. There's all these other things that are starting to kind of start banging on you, and it causes your brain to kind of like go off in the North 40. And you do see that, like, I mean, like we've all shot like major matches as the last stage of the day, like the mental fatigue starts kind of, and you're like, okay, how do I pull it together long enough to get through these last 2 stages? So there's something to be said for that.
And I get that, but I think that works for certain types of people where,
Fair.
like, for me, what I would like to do as an instructor, I would say, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to move from box A to box B, because that's essentially what that drill was.
Yep.
And then we are going to shoot on target, move and shoot on target. So our goal here is to find out the best way to move in between positions, right? That's the goal. That's the goal of the drill. There are 3 ways to move in between positions. You can either break your grip, you can keep your gun, you can keep your grip, or you can keep your gun up. Those are basically the 3 ways to do it. And let's try those 3 ways. We're going to put them on the timer. I'm going to have you do this 3 times with each way. Left to right, left to right, left to right. Okay, what's your average time for hands apart? This. Okay, what's your average times with hands together? This. What's your average time with gun up? This. Okay, so it looks like you might be better with this or with this or this, but also a lot of it depends on the movement. It depends on how you're moving. If it's just left to right, 2 steps, gun up, obviously. But if you're doing a longer run or if you're doing a backwards run, I would say it's all situational. And
sure.
so
Let me ask you a question though. I mean, in your shooting career, Jared, I mean, as you've grown and progressed as a shooter and become an instructor, how many of the things that you started out with have you changed?
a lot.
Okay. So the challenge with the challenge, and I actually understand what you're saying, and what you're saying makes sense in the context of let's just call it like a B through D kind of shooter. And because that you're giving them some, I mean, a tangible thing to start with. The challenge is kind of Kevin Isaac kind of talked about a little bit about this, where if you tell them, do this, this, and this, 1, 2, 3, they're going to then do step 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And you have to, when you get past into that the AMGM kind of thing, it then becomes, I need you to get here and I need you to be doing this when you get to this point. How do I do that? Doesn't matter. You're going to figure it out. But at that point, you have enough internal knowledge through experience and education that you'll figure it out. It's the shot calling. How do I have to adjust my hand, my grip so that the gun is going to predictably return? If you try and explain that to a new shooter, they don't get it.
Right, but that's the thing though, is for you or for me or for Zach or for Taylor, we have that base set where I think if he says, hey, just get the gun from A to B, this is the goal, right? That's the goal. That's what we need to focus on. Do that. How you do it, it doesn't matter. And I think that's acceptable for a higher level class, but for a lower level class, like for instance, again, not to bash on Vanessa, but there were a couple times where Vanessa's like, I don't understand what this guy is smoking. Like, I don't understand what he's telling me to do. And so he took her aside and kind of said, okay, Vanessa, so this is what I'm saying. This is how you want to do it. This is the best way to do it. This is why. Try it like this and let's see what your time is. And then she went and she did it, and she did fantastic because Vanessa's a hell of a shooter.
Damn straight.
But it's all about your audience, and it was just interesting because I don't know if he would change his teaching tactic with another group. I don't think he would, just because that was his whole shtick, was about, I'm not going to teach you guys. I'm going to let you guys figure this out. I'm going to give you the goal. I'm going to give you the examples. Not even an example. Like, he didn't demo anything. He just said, guys, this is the goal here. Your goal is to shoot as fast as possible from this floating box to this floating box. How will you do that? It's up to you. And again, like what Robert was saying, you're 100% right. From a higher end shooter perspective, you can tell Tom, you can tell Robert, hey, get the gun here. Because we forget, especially those of us in that A class and even M's, we forget to be hyper aggressive in those transitions and those movements. And when I started to get super aggressive in those movements from point A to point B, I started making the trademark Kevin Isaac dad sounds. I started doing the as I go through. And how many times do I do that during the match? Honestly, rarely ever. And the reason is because I'm not being hyper aggressive. I'm not being as aggressive as I need to be if I really want to win the match.
You never feel like you're going to fall over. You never feel like you're on the edge. You never feel like you're sacrificing something in the name of speed. Like all of us, if you sit there and you watch us sit there and shoot, you'd be like, this is it's a comfortable effort.
Right. This is 85%.
It's an 85 controlled effort. And like it's a very consistent, like my match performance is very consistent. But like, yeah, the cutting loose and sacrificing more of what your comfort is at a certain point.
I think you're going to see. I mean, I think that class was definitely tailored for higher class shooters. I think you're going to see Joey as an instructor start to grow and learn how to break things down into better concepts. Because I mean, the Vanessa situation, there was even I asked him a couple questions because I'm just like, I don't know what you're asking, and I actually don't understand what you're even asking me to do. And then by then he's like,
that was really funny when you turned and looked at him. He's like, what are these words that you're saying? Like, I don't understand what you're talking right now. And he's like, oh, my bad.
Yeah. And when you say that to him, he's like, the switch flips and he's like, oh, let me explain it to you.
Right. And so he will explain it, and he's happy to explain it, and he will go into it, and he will tell you exactly what you need to do. But that's not his general teaching principle.
Yeah. And I really did like that. Once I understood it, I like that because it forced me to become a better learner in that concept. And so I love, and I really appreciated that. But I just had to get to that point. And I can tell you that like there's some the lower end shooters that would have just been like, I'm going to go over to another bay and go home.
I'm gonna go do bill drills at the next bay.
Can I go home? I got turned into a cow.
You know what's funny is, so like yesterday we shot that match, and like normally you're always trying to get on squad 6, and so we talked. Yeah, well that's the thing. So like last week, I signed up for the match, and the match director, we talked about this. He'd artificially limited the size of the squad, and then by the time, and so I couldn't squad anywhere. And then I went away. I came back an hour later, and he'd opened it up, and I couldn't squad again because everybody had filled it up again. And so, which is stupid, it is what it is. But like yesterday, and I just went and hopped on a squad, and I was on 204, and they said, hey, we need some people, or a group of people want to shoot together. Can some people go over to this other squad? So I went to 203, and I had this really interesting realization.
Fun.
I don't actually like shooting with squad 6 very much because they're too intense, and it's like they're not having fun. Everybody's like super serious about it. But like shooting on 203 and even in other squads, people are like they're more lighthearted. They're having fun. They're like, this is a game. And most of us are doing this to get out of mowing the lawn on a Saturday.
Right.
And I found that I went home and I'm like, I like this. I was really happy yesterday.
When you're squatted, there's a lot of people on that squad 6 that I completely admire.
100% love them. I mean, just great people.
But they care more than I do. And the one thing that I do not like having to deal with is if somebody has a bad stage, it's just like, okay, well, now I can't talk to person X for about 27 minutes because person X is having a negative feel. They're having a big sad, and they're not going to.
And it has a way of bringing you down with them.
Well, the other part is that you match the energy of those people. You go like, oh, I had a bad stage too. Well, I'm having a big sad. And then the other part is is like when you beat somebody like me and Dan Ward. Like Dan Ward shoots limited major, and I'll shoot carry optics, and Dan's been shooting for years and whatever, and we'll have little Coke bets. Be like, all right, 16-ounce Coke on this one. What are you spotting me? I'll spot you a whole hit factor on this one. Like yesterday, he was shooting single stack. I was like, all right. He goes, you don't even have to reload. I'm like, all right, fine. One whole hit factor, for a Coke or something like that. And we just have a great time, and we joke around, and we're having fun. And when somebody is sitting there shooting and they're just missing steel on the and I just go, hold the gun harder with both hands. Hold the gun harder. And then they hold the gun.
Stop sucking, Dan.
Hold the gun harder. Then all of a sudden they start knocking down steel. It's like, yeah, okay. Grab the gun really hard.
Good job.
It's a lot more fun. Like, believe me, like the worst time that I have at USPSA sometimes is when I'm leaving the parking lot and I look at the match results and I'm like, oh man, I thought I had a really good match, and I'm 85 or 86% of some of these really, really, good top 50 kind of level guys in the nation in carry optics. And for me, like for 41 years old and beaten up and whatever and not shooting, like it should be good. But like when you put yourself in that situation, it can kind of mess with you. And like, hey, like my goal is like, hey, I want to be an M. I need 2 more classifiers and I can be an M in carry optics, and I want to do it from concealment. I think an M from concealment is a pretty good standard for shooters.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what I'm looking at doing. But like, yeah, it's fun. Shooting's fun. That's the whole reason we're in it. Like buying guns and shooting is fun. And sometimes when you're with guys who are, not that any of these guys do it, but when you're with the guys who like whatever and walk away and then need 10 or 15 minutes to cool off while they clean their magazines, it's just that's not fun. It's like it's like oh
And
great, like dad's mad. It's like every stage one of the 12 dads is mad. And then you're just like, well, dad's mad,
And I don't want to sit here and like and shit on anybody on the squad. That's not my intention. I don't feel everybody who gets on that squad, they're there for a reason because they want to be shooting and competing with some of the best people, and I understand that. That's awesome. And that if you're shooting with Leo, then you're going to get a really good idea on how to do things well.
Oh, you'll get the best stage plans.
Yeah,
you'll get the best stage plans.
And yet, as I was telling Colby, was a Friday. I was like, everybody does this. Everybody shoots this game for whatever reason. And you see so many people who they work their way all the way to the top. They get to the GM and they get up there and then they're like, well, now what? What else is there? And they suddenly realize that GM is just a letter. And so they practice really hard and they do really well at nationals. And maybe they come in first or second at nationals. And then they go to work on Monday and their coworkers are like, what'd you do for the weekend? Well, I did really well at a match. Cool. Hey, I need you to run these prints for me. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Well, and the other part is too,
and
is like
those people eventually they just go away because you hit the top and then there's nothing left. But the people who stick around long term, they find something else. They find a reason to be there. And for me, it's kind of become a weird thing. But for me, the single biggest thing I love about what we do in USPSA, I love that introduction to USPSA match. I love seeing new shooters come into that match, and I like to see the lights turn on, and they just like, oh man, this is actually something fun, and we can actually go out and we can have a good time with our friends,
right, and
we can become safe gun owners and bring people along the way. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Maybe I did something well in life.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's the actively pushing towards a higher principle. And the higher principle is making better gun owners. And if you want to be a better gun owner, look better, head on over to Dominate Defense, use promo code PARA10, save 10% off your order. Get the finest concealment and competition accessories and belts, like, period, in the industry. Like, you're seeing them more and more nationally. Like, they are the best belts, period. Also, check out W74 guide rods. Mr. Frugal Shooter Kevin Isaac's got a DWX milled. And
not so frugal.
Not so frugal.
Especially now that both of his kids are going to be getting DWXs, because we all know that now that his daughter shot a DWX, he has to get one for her. And he can't get one for one child without getting it for the other. So now he's going to have three.
Well, and then you got to have a backup and maybe a major match gun. So he's going to need six.
Exactly.
Six of these things. The one
and
thing
if he hasn't gotten one by the time he takes the kids down to Barry's Still Open, I may find them as they shoot the match and highly encourage the young ones to tell dad to get them a DWX for their birthdays.
Or as soon as you load and make ready, say, Dad, I want a DWX, or I'm going to put this round over the berm.
Not even the left berm, the right berm.
The top berm. I'll put it over the back berm. Oh. Pow! Fire over everyone's head. Like it's
I'm going to turn around and get famous on TV.
Yeah, I'm going to get the news called. And so like I handled one of those DWXs, and like all it needs is like an Atlas high safety. I think the safety positioning is like it's like a regular safety, but the ambi safety really bugs the knuckle up there. And so like
now that I found out what that high safety is, I want that on all my guns. I just think that's awesome.
It works.
Did you play with my gun at the match?
No, damn it! I kept meaning to, and then everybody else was, and then I just never did. And
yeah, that was one of the funnest parts of that. At the end of the class, everybody had like a little show and tell where everybody just passed around their guns and be like, "Oh, try this gun," and everyone's, "Oh, wow, 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 wow." And so I got to shoot a PDP steel frame, which was very nice. I got to try Kevin's DWX, a couple Canics. Good old Josh brought out his box.
he brought out his luggage box,
and God
said, "Would you guys like to know what it feels like to like be better than everybody else?
Wow.
Behold."
It's like the scene in Pulp Fiction where he opens up the briefcase and you just see the and you go, "Is that what I think that is?" And Josh goes, "Yeah, man.
Just a box of Atlases."
This is like 2 Toyota Tacomas.
Well, if you would get your frugally priced gun a little bit more weighted or get some springs replaced or all that, check out W74 guide rods. They're fantastic. Kevin's a great guy, and he's getting his 2 kids in the shooting, and it's just like, what a waste of money. Like your shooting budget just tripled, and you're gonna get nothing out of it. Anyways, except for memories and love. Also, check out Rune Tactical. I'm patiently waiting for that P30 VP9 +1. I get 22 in the gun now, but 23 would be really, really nice. So check them out. You can also use the same promo code and save 10% off. Go to Telegram, download the Telegram app. It's a fantastic app. You don't get anything that you don't want on there. You can search for the PARAcast, pop in, ask us questions, and do all that jazz that you guys want to do. Robert.
From Sean Eden, who's going to buy USPSA apparel from Howitzer? Actually, that's a weird question. So, did you guys get like it was either an email notification or like some pop-up like notification on your phone saying that like that USPSA was partnering with Howitzer or something?
Negative.
Maybe that's just me. That's weird.
It might be my junk. Howitzer.
I'm suddenly worried that like the USPSA app, I need to turn the notifications off so that they're not sending me just random janky ass advertising.
Anytime I see Isaac Lockwood, I always think of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Oh yeah,
Flint Lockwood, Flint Lockwood, you get over here right now.
That's not what I think. Anyway, moving on. From Kevin Isaac, at what point is a pistol no longer considered the frugal option? I mean, if you consider the type, 1800 striker fired gun, not frugal. 1800 single action double stack 2011-ish gun, still maybe frugal?
No 2011 is basically frugal. The Prodigy's not even frugal. It's on the lower end of those guns.
Thesis is frugal.
Thesis is frugal. Rock Island, I guess you could call on the frugal side. But
the gun is cheap. The gun doesn't matter. The gun never matters.
Well, some guns matter less than other guns. Some guns you can matter them 4 times before you get to the price of another gun on there.
Look, I mean, look, just for shits and giggles, right?
Functional is what matters.
I mean, yes, Tommy. I bought more of these Shadow 2s because I wanted to, but I'm still running the same gun that I did in 2017 when I bought it.
Yeah, well, there's definitely like.
And so I've just kept it, and it just keeps running.
There's a difference between cheap and something that works for the long period of time. And sometimes like
fair.
Like on the expedition, if you're going on an expedition, it's like there's equipment that's not suited for the job, and then there's the cheapest thing that is suited for a job. Like I don't think anyone would argue with the fact like you could go buy a Glock 34 MOS and keep it running and basically shoot that gun till the end of time in USPSA. Yeah, in USPSA. But like some guns are very nice and they're purpose built. Shadow 2 is a purpose built gun. The DWX is a very much a purpose built limited optics. Like it's kind of weird to me that people are going to go spend twice as much than a DWX to compete in limited optics when that DWX exists. Like that's a freaking pretty snazzy sweet gun.
Well, the DWX is a great gun just because I mean the P10F magazines work right out of the box. They just work extremely well. The grip is very, very good. It's I mean, bang for the buck. It's hard to beat everything you get for the gun. The biggest downside of the DWX is that it's an iron sight gun that you have to send off to whomever to have it milled. But if you can get past that, you're getting a lot of gun for the money. Mm-hmm. If you want a gun that does everything you want, that you want, that's like, this is the gun built for me, it's hard not to go with Jared's guy, the TSC.
All right, Tactical Steel Custom.
Tactical Steel Custom, yeah. So it's hard not to go that direction, because then you have a gun that's built for you. But well, I just don't think the gun is the money.
It's not.
I really don't.
Like, honestly, when does a gun stop becoming frugal? And I would say when you're spending more money to accomplish the same thing that you could basically accomplish with like half the budget. Like, there's a lot of the 2011s that, like, if you're into a 2011, like something like a Platypus or buying something that's $2,300 is frugal for getting into a 2011 if you want to do 2011 things. And
I would say, Tom, I will say it like this. That's pretty true. And I use my reloading presses as an example. I bought a Dillon 650 in reloading presses, trying not to buy a Dillon 650. Yep. And so I bought like all these presses because I'm like, well, I can't afford a 650. I can't afford it. And pretty soon I've spent all the money for a 650 trying to not do it, when I should have just been like, look, here's the money. I'll just suck it up. It's just what do they call it? It's like the buy once, cry once, or whatever that thing is, right?
A lot of it, though, comes down to is how much are you actually shooting? Because a Glock 34 with the red dot is out of some people's budget. And while Robert's right, where honestly, for us shooters who are shooting 10,000 rounds a year of 9mm, is the gun the expensive part? No, the ammo is. The time is. But there are a lot of people out there who don't have that ammo budget, and they don't have that time budget, and they don't have a lot of these things. And so I get where they come off and they say, dude, like, more than $1,000 is a lot for a gun, and I can't afford that, and I can't do that. And when we just say, well, I mean, that's only 5,000 rounds of ammo. That's not even a lot. Like, if you think about shooting this gun for 5 years, that's barely anything as opposed to the cost of ammo, or as opposed to the cost of just the time sink. And so my biggest thing is what I always say. It's about having fun and finding something that you enjoy. I like to harass Tom about swapping guns all the time, but also, guess what? Tom is enjoying these guns. He's enjoying having these guns. And so he's actually wanting to dry fire. If he still had the same old Glock 34 Gen 3 from 1992, and he had shot that all the way since then,
2001, 2000.
Would he probably be a better shooter with that Glock? Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. But guess what? Would he have had as much fun along the way? No, he wouldn't have. He's had all these sorts of janky ass guns that he gets to play with and he gets to try. And that's what Tom likes doing. I like spending money on stupid 2011s because I like actually dry firing those. I like shooting those. I like having fun with those. I like walking up next to someone and they're shooting bang, bang, bang. And then I walk up next to them and go, bang. And they go, God fucking damn. I like doing that. Robert likes doing, like, he has his shadows. Like, everybody has their own thing that they like. And so I think that is something that's not focused on a lot in the sport, where it's like, guys, this is a hobby. This is supposed to be fun.
I think
get a gun that you like.
Get into it. Yeah, I think we get into the game for fun. Mm-hmm. And along the way, we start to forget that. Yeah, we're supposed to be having fun here.
There was a Facebook group where some guy was asking about, like, hey, I want to get a SIG 226 Legion or an X5 or some sort of high-end 226. Yeah, I'm going to put a dot on it. Can I compete with it in limited optics? And there are all these guys that were like, that's a shitty gun. You're a piece of shit. You can't be able to compete. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing with your life, you rat fucking bastard? Go fucking kill yourself. And you're like, okay, internet, why don't you take a fucking step back and realize The 226 is an absolutely fine gun. It's a wonderful gun. If you enjoy shooting it, if you go to the range with it, if you go and compete with it, then good for you. Good for you, Nate Osborne, with your weird 226. Good for you, Alex Went, with your bitch-ass revolvers. Good for you. As long as you're having fun and shooting and actually doing something, I don't care if you got a Mauser that killed U.S. GIs in World War II. Good for you. Get some practice, get better, stop sucking. That's what's important.
I guess that's the case of what frugality would be. Like, frugality would be what is the most frugal way to achieve the goal. And if your goal is to make, like, if you're starting as like, I would like to be an A class or an M class by the end of 2024 in USPSA starting from scratch. The most important thing to get there was probably be competing in practice and like having
direction.
And having the budget to do it.
Having a singular point of focus.
So could you buy a DWX and eat up a ton of ammo in that budget, or buy a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 and put a 507 comp on the top of that bad boy and then spend the rest on money? I mean on ammo.
I think at a certain point as you progress as a shooter, when you're starting out, you don't know what you don't know, just pure ignorance, right? But along the way, you start to learn a little bit, and then you start, and this applies to the guns that you would tend to use, but you get to a point, and you're like, this is what I want a gun to do. I want a 2011 with that high side safety, because this is the reason you can articulate the reasons why something is important to you, and once you get to that point, I suspect for a lot of people, the gun it's the gun. I mean, this is the gun that's going to do the thing I want it to do, and I'm just going to start throwing ammo downrange.
Yep.
And that's all I care about. And at that point, the frugality comes in. I mean, Jared actually made this observation, and it's pretty damn true. Because I built that, I got that 2011, and I'm like, yeah, I did it. I went and I put all the thing together, and I'm like, now it's like, well, now what do I do?
Your
and Jared's
Prodigy.
like, yeah, the Prodigy, and I'm like, well, now what do I do with it? And he's like, I think you just like building guns. And I'm like, I mean, shit, yeah, that's actually pretty true. I just like putting stuff together.
It's expensive Legos for Robert.
Yeah,
it really kind of is.
I just like
when he says that out loud, I mean, I'm like, yeah, I can agree with that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I got like 9mm service guns. I got a closet full of freaking 9mm service guns. The SIG SP 2022. Who's going to go compete that? Nobody. I just like the stupid thing. I think it's cool. I got HK 45s. I would love to go out there and shoot 5,000 rounds of 45 ACP. And just go out there and just go shoot HK 45s and 45Cs and 6P220s and my TRP.
I need to get that conversion. I need to get that 45 stuff back from you. I need to do some stuff with it.
I think it got lost at sea.
No.
Speaking of getting lost at sea, I lost one of my like ham radios, and I could not find the thing. I tore my entire basement apart before I found it, like underneath a bunch of boxes. I was so pissed off at myself.
So this is what I think you need to do, Kevin. If you want to keep the frugal shooter in your name, and your guns aren't frugal anymore,
make another account.
You got to show like other frugal shit. You got to post like you getting like electrolyte drinks from Walmart,
or like
become like a coupon shopper kind of thing.
Yeah. Show like, I went to Nationals, motherfuckers, but I stayed at a Motel 6.
He's in a tent.
I went to Nationals, but I flew on Spirit Airlines.
I'll have you know that the ROs that worked Nationals at SUPS, what was it we did in 2017? We did stay at the Motel 6.
Was it better than that one hotel that we all stayed at so long ago?
Dude, they would have had a stiff competition. It was interesting.
That's what I would do, Kevin. Buy a 1992 Honda Civic that's falling apart, that doesn't have a passenger side mirror.
Step out with your $2,000 gun that's worth twice as much as the car.
That's right. Bondoed. And then take a picture of the Honda Civic and be like, frugal shooter.
Yeah, that's right. Like you just pose
frugal / shooter. So they can be separate.
the DWX on top of the hood of a Civic, and then you take all these glamour shots of it, of this rusted out piece of shit, and there's DWX on top. Frugal shooter.
I bought my holster and equipment on Amazon, but I have a DWX.
Yeah, I have a DWX. It is a fantastic.
There you go. That's how you be frugal. You can still be frugal, but
let's see. If rifle hit factor matches were as common as pistol matches, would you split time between the two? What percentage? Given the martial aspect of these games, wouldn't spending more time with the rifle be better?
Yeah.
I just don't care about rifles as much. I think they're cool, but I like. There you go, Jared. I like building the rifles more than I like shooting them.
Well, and it comes back to the martial aspect of the sport. What are you likely to get into shooting with, guys? Your concealed carry rifle?
Well,
calm down, Flux Raiders.
Well, yeah. Well, and even if you did the Flux Raider, the best place to shoot a Flux Raider if you're going to practice as with a cargo would be at USPSA. The other part is too, it's like being good with a rifle is all right, but like it's kind of easier to be good with the rifle. I mean, there's definitely a top end of like rifle shooters in the world, like Brian Nelson. Like he's much better than everybody else. But like the other part is like the range that you need to be good with the rifle and the stages that you go through with the rifle. Like it's very much different, and it's very cumbersome. And honestly, standing around rifle fire for 6 hours sucks. Like I'm much happier shooting this, and like if I want to sit there and practice with a rifle,
it's expensive.
Yeah, it's super expensive.
Yeah.
I will buy a 9mm 16-inch carbine that kicks more than a 5.56. And I'll practice my mount and aiming and doing all the stuff that I need to do.
Well, isn't that the beauty of, the PCC division? I mean, if you want to approach it from that standpoint, PCC and USPSA, where you get a lot of the practical skills in terms of skill building of rifle transitions. Hitting very specific, and you do that with an inexpensive 9mm, so that then if you we're going to use a proper rifle caliber.
Yeah.
That should transfer over more. A 223 is so much easier as a recoil than a 9mm.
And there's an argument to be made for like service members, if like, Army guys who actually just deploy with rifles, because that's what some people don't realize a lot is a lot of the military, they don't believe in sidearms. A lot of, especially foreign militaries, don't have sidearms. They have a primary rifle, and their secondary weapon is the rifle from the next guy. And so it's like,
if you're Russian, the other guy's ammo.
Yeah, the other guy's Mosin. You get 10 bullets, motherfuckers. Enjoy. So
Zerg rush.
I don't know. I think there's a lot more to be said from a pistol martial aspect. Even as a cop, it's realistically a cop is going to get in a handgun shooting much more likely than he is going to get in a rifle shooting. And if he, even for SWAT, like half the time I have a pistol. I have a pistol with me. I don't have a rifle, because if I have a less lethal grenade launcher, a 40mm, or a less lethal, all these other tools that we have, or if I have a tool that's going to break a window or look under a door or look through a wall, all these fancy things, I don't have my rifle on me. Most of the time it's going to be a pistol shooting that you're going to get into. And especially from a martial aspect, really the only guys who are trying to kill each other professionally with rifles are military. And for them, sure, go with God, buddy. Go build a nice little rifle that emulates that perfectly and come out and have fun. But the amount of guys that do that are about zero.
Right. From Jack Flash, talk about Instructor Zero.
Oh, the Instructor Zero Ben Stager feud that's now going.
Oh, right.
He's getting infused with everybody. I don't even know why we even talk. Like, I like Ben as an instructor, but he really does like to.
He does. And you know what? Right, wrong, good, bad. Instructor Zero was dumb for actually like responding. Just don't respond. Ben Steger, God bless the man. He puts out some damn good videos right now. I don't know how to say his name. Rob Epifanina. I don't know how to say it. But there's a lot of great content on YouTube that we never had, like when we first started. And so much of it is free, and it's just like, these are instructional series. And so
this is what you'd pay $60 for 10 years ago.
Right.
And I love the fact that they're doing that. I think that's just amazing that Ben is, and the funniest thing about it is he believes in what he's doing so much that he's willing. He's like, yeah, I'll put my content out there and come. I mean, come at me, bro. You can critique me for anything I want. Is he? He's starting shit with people. Yeah, he does. I don't like it, but on one hand, on one hand, it's like if there's bad instructors out there, I mean, should they be called out? I don't know.
That's fair.
No, it's very much true. When people are putting out information that can be easily critiqued and are selling it to people, it's if we're like we would do like some sort of like free version of this. If we were sitting out there and we were like listening to some guy and he was telling people that this is the way you should shoot the stage or go over there or do this, it would be like, no. Or like, this is how you should set up a match in practice. We'd be like, no, it's not how you would do it. And like what Ben does is he does it on a much bigger level because, I would say this, like he lives on a national level in training, which means he will take critiques at people who are at a national level in training. And what stuff happens is generally when Stagers criticizes people, like what he was doing with the USPSA board, it tends to be inflammatory. That's the point. Like it gets attention by being inflammatory, and maybe people have problems with the nature in which he does it. But he tends not to be very wrong in the long run about what's happening with these people. Like a lot of the things that popped up were like the stuff with Scott Jetlinski. It's not like none of us didn't see some of that
he's
stuff.
Right.
He's 100% right. It's like he says the things that other people say in their chats about practical shooting. He says it out loud.
Yeah, no, he does, and
I personally am annoyed in general by instructors who try to gain clout or views or whatever you want to call it by poking and making fun of others. And to me, it just comes off as bullyish. And I understand that punching down is it's a shitty term. It's a woke term, so I'm not a big fan of that. But I understand what you're saying. But it's just, I don't know. I just feel like it's being a bully where you're going around and trying to push people around online. And like, if you watch some of his stuff where he does like one-on-ones, it's not like, I don't really think that they're adult conversations. It's very much bullying. And it's like, okay, if you want to go bully someone, go for it. And yeah, should those people be bullied? Maybe they should. Maybe they smell like shit. Maybe they do weird stuff in class, and maybe they should be told stop doing that. But I don't know. I'm not going to champion it. I'm not going to say good job, Ben. It's just, there's a lot of ways it's just bullying. And is Instructor Zero a real instructor? Do people really think he is? I don't think so, but at the same time, he has thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, and it's just like, I kind of feel like Instructor Zero is just like FPS Russia.
Yeah,
he's just a silly man. He's a character.
Kind of fun to watch.
He's the Liver King. Who cares?
Like I want to see him make 4 shots with the Benelli and transition to a Glock and shoot something in 2 seconds. Yeah, like I like that's the fun stuff. Yeah, like go riff some Instagram stuff. I think that's fun. I think it is it's a funny thing because it's like it's a cynical view of it, and it might be true. It is a very good way of discrediting people who would go to potential students on a national level. Like it's just like if I could remove 20% of the people who would attend a Scott Jetlinski class and then come over and take a Ben Stager class or a Joel Park or a Juan Kim class or a Alex training group class or whatever, like kind of say, or a Matt Pronka class, then are those better instructors? In my opinion, yes.
Probably,
but
yeah.
But it's just like it's grabbing the market share. But here's another thing, like UPS and FedEx,
it's mudslinging, and I don't like it.
Yeah,
it does hurt the overall Second Amendment community when is what they always say, like like we are our own worst enemies.
Yeah, it's
And
it's a puring and a purge, I guess, that's what it would be.
I don't
But
know what
like,
the answer is. Jared, I think you're right. Honestly, I think you're right.
I just think it's
It doesn't need
trashy.
to happen.
I would absolutely love Ben if he didn't do all this shit where he made fun of and just called out and all his things, where I feel like Ben has created a thing where that's his deal, is he goes and finds shitty instructors and then shits on their face. And while everybody's like, oh, freaking out about it, and it's amazing, but it's also just like, okay, good job. You just punched the retard in the face. Like, good. Like, everyone's real proud of you, buddy. You punched the poor Italian guy over there. He's trying to LARP and have a good time, and you punched him in the face. Good
yeah,
job. Like, that's not hard. That's not hard.
It does
Anybody
seem
who's actually been in the sport knows that Instructor Zero. Anybody who knows what they're doing knows Instructor Zero is just a dingleberry on. He's just a liver king, and it's like, okay, good. Like,
correct.
Right.
It just feels like he's trying to steal views.
Did the Liver King need to be confronted? Do these people actually need to be confronted? Is it such a thing that we need to stand up for it? Probably not. Is it a thing that for Ben's business that he might want to stand up to it, and kind of start shit and like take some of that person's audience and bring them over to his? Like, hey, there's one thing. It's like the market. Ben has done a fantastic job at marketing himself for years. Like, he's not able to participate in the sport, and his business has doubled. Like, give the devil his due. And he's a fantastic instructor, and he's a world-class champion, and like, he's funny, but it's just like the union boss for the Teamsters. It's like he's an asshole.
I don't care who you are. That was funny.
Yeah, it's
you want to go right now? I want to go right now.
You can go right now. It's like he's like,
all I'm saying is that our government needs more duels in the street.
Yeah,
I'd be okay with this.
I wouldn't even disagree with
each other.
So, anyways, we got another question.
Last question. From Colin Lewis. Do you guys remember when? I know. Do you guys remember when Carry Optics was 10 rounds like production? Now that production is 15 rounds, would Carry Optics be interesting to shoot if it were 15 rounds, or would everyone just switch to limited optics?
I think it would be fun to shoot at 10 rounds.
I do not think 10 rounds. 10 rounds is, I mean, just if that's the case, put the gun in your mouth and pull the trigger, because Carry Optics is dead at that point. Everybody goes to limited optics. But functionally, what is limited optics other than Carry Optics with a magwell?
Yeah, it's functionally what it is. And the one thing it's bringing the 2011 money, they got it right. Like, it would bring in lots of 2011 money.
But that's the problem, dude, is people, I'm seeing people shoot limited optics, and it's not this giant exodus or whatever to the 2011. I mean, you see people shooting Carry Optics, and the biggest commonality of them is they have a magwell.
Yep.
But I mean, people are shooting limited optics with M&Ps and lights and stuff like that. I don't see that. I don't see a difference between limited optics and Carry Optics. I think going to 10 rounds destroys the division.
Oh, I wouldn't do it for the sport. I just think it could be more fun for me. Like,
if that's
there's things that are fun for me that would be terrible ideas.
Sure, just for the fun of it, do it. And I mean, right? Just for the fun of it, one match, just load your mags up to 10 rounds and shoot Carry Optics with 10-round magazines, and it's the fuck around and find out, right? Report back on the results. Tell us what you think. Maybe it is fun. Honestly, maybe it's fun. God, who was it? A bunch of the guys locally. I mean, Brett. It was Brett. Brett shot Carry Optics when it was 10 rounds. I mean, he did very well with Carry Optics at 10 rounds.
Brett?
He hurt his hand, and the recovery's just been beaten on him really hard. Oh. And so he actually was considering getting like a PCC rifle, because he's like, I want to shoot, but I just can't grip the gun right now.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in forever.
Yeah, and so who's it? Trace Crecept shot production yesterday with 15 rounds, and really, I mean, our stagers are what, 22 to 30 round stages.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I don't see that 15 is like this. 10 rounds really made a game within the game. 15
it's too much.
Just
too much ammo.
basically makes, well, decide where you're going to reload the gun.
Right. So I really like 10 round as low caps because you have other divisions that are also at 10 round low cap. You got the single stack guys, you got the production guys, you have the, whatever. But now it's a little bit different. And so it used to be kind of fun because you would say, hey, single stack buddy, I'm also don't have any bullets. What's your plan? And so like you could kind of go and make your little teams and you make your little buddies and try to figure out a good stage plan. Whereas now it's like, oh, by yourself, I have 15 rounds, or oh, I have 10 rounds, or it's I like it more when it's a little bit more streamlined, where like, oh yeah, there's a low cap, which is 10 rounds, and then there's high cap, which is, 20.
The only way that
whatever.
you're going to see low cap, I kind of have this thought on this, which is the only way you're going to see low cap actually become viable again is if the stage designers build better stages. Because I see way too many stages today where you have this idea of a view, right? Like there's 8 rounds here, and then take one step, and now you have another 8 rounds.
And technically, it's a different shooting spot.
Yeah, and so it's just you're just like, okay, well, that's not really what we're trying to do here, and so shooting low cap it becomes punishing, and it's like, why don't we actually teach our stage designers how to build good stages that don't heavily favor one or the other, or at least give places for low cap guys to accomplish what they need to do in the stage. Because even when, like Tommy, like when we shot production, there was a lot of times we would shoot the open plan or the limited plan. We would just have more reloads in it because the stages were still good.
Because the stages were set up there. I mean, the difference between 10 and 15 rounds, in my opinion, 10 rounds makes you split arrays. 15 rounds just makes you split which positions. Like 10 rounds really makes you go like,
right.
I have to
reload.
I have
reload.
I have to transition to this target. Like I have to shoot array 1. I have to transition to this target I can see that's in array 3. Then I have to load, shoot array 2, shoot another target that I can now see from this position in array 3, reload, come up, finish array 3, reload, finish array 4. Like, and the one thing about the production plans in 10 rounds is you had to like the memorization in those plans was legit. I have to be here so I can turn, so I can shoot this guy, so I can reload, and so I can move on. 15 rounds is I'm going to shoot array 1, and I'm going to shoot array 2, and then I'm going to reload. I'm going to shoot array 3 and 4. Like the game inside the game was much better when you were at 10 rounds. Can carry optics do that? Yes, but the reason why we wouldn't do that for carry optics now is because too many people shoot carry optics, and the backlash on it would be people would not enjoy the downgrade to it.
And I just think stage design is the crux of the whole issue. Well, it doesn't matter what it is. If the stage designers are not building good stages, gosh, who is it? Jared Heinrichs. I never remember how to say his name because I see him online more than anything. But he's a fantastic stage designer back in North Carolina at Ben Barry's, Sir Walter, and that place. He builds really good stages that are designed from the standpoint of how do you shoot. Basically these things are 8-round neutral kind of stages, so they're fun. There's things to do where low cap guys can successfully shoot a great stage, and yet the high cap guys can shoot well. And that's what it always comes down to. If you're going to build a stage, it's the easiest thing in the world to do. Whenever you design a stage, basically go through all of the divisions: revolver, single stack, limited, whatever. Go through every single one of them and say, how would I shoot it if I was this?
Right.
And if you just do that one little thing, you will discover how to make a stage better. That's all you have to just do, that one thing.
It's the principle of limitations bring greatness. Yeah. Like if you can't have great, like it's like like you just think about it in like a video game or gaming complex. Like if you enter all the cheat codes, you have infinite ammo, you can't take damage and die. Like the game becomes very boring and terrible. But like when you play something like Dark Souls or Sekiro, and it's just like, oh, these basic enemies one-shot me, and then like when you master that stuff, and then it's just like, oh, I'm great at these games, and that's what kind of production and stuff like they did that with stage design. The limitations made stages better, and the limitations can make better, more thoughtful, more methodical stage plans and shooting.
Yep. There you go.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, downloading, and subscribing. We appreciate all that you guys do. Patreons get a little bit more of the show. Well, we get to talk about cars, the hot shooting subjects that we always bring out on the Patreon side. Join us $1 a month. We'll get you all that jazz. And you can always check out the show on YouTube. And the Patreons, you get the full version with your Patreon side on the video if you'd like to see us discussing and holding up guns every now and then and all that jazz. So check that stuff out. And for Robert Wyatt and Jared Stepp, I'm Tom Nelson. Bidding you peace, love, and souls. We depart into the open waters of the sea of life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
Good night, everybody.
Doot, doot.